Jai Gurudev. This morning, India woke up to the monumental news of a historic milestone in our fight against terror. Operation Sindoor has brought justice to those who sacrificed their lives on the fateful afternoon of April 22nd in Pahalgam and to their surviving families and friends. Personally, for me, it is a day of closure, a day of catharsis, and a day of gratitude because one of the 9 locations targeted in Operation Sindoor were the training grounds used by the attackers of the horrendous 26/11 terror attacks on Mumbai. Me and my husband Ajay Bagga were in the Taj Mahal Hotel on the night of 26/11 and almost hostage for close to 14 hours before being rescued by the NSG commandos. So today, 17 years later, it feels like a closure of sorts. This has been a day to remember for lifetimes, I think, for our nation. And to understand deeper what this means to our nation, what lies ahead, and what we as civilians can do for our nation, I am joined by a panel of illustrious and much decorated veterans of the Indian Armed Forces, who between them have more than 150 years of proudly serving our nation across the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. I am so honored to, along with you, welcome, firstly, Air Commodore R.N. Merani Ji. He has been a fighter pilot, a flying instructor, and a test pilot. He has commanded the Indian Air Force base at Baroda as Air Commodore. He was the Chief Operations Officer as a group captain at the Chandigarh Air Force Base during the Kargil operations. Welcome, Air Commodore Merani Ji. Thank you for being with us and giving your time. We are also joined.
Thank you very much.
We are also joined by Commodore H.G. Harsha Ji. Commodore Harsha Ji retired from the Indian Navy in 2008. He's a nuclear submariner involved with the commissioning of the first-in-class INS Chakra in 1988. Thereafter, he served on board aircraft carrier INS Virat, along with holding many appointments in the Naval Dockyard in Mumbai and the Shipbuilding Center in Visakhapatnam. He was instrumental in the indigenous design of nuclear submarine INS Arihant, while being the principal director of submarine design in the Naval Headquarters in 2006. Commodore H.G. Harsha Ji, hearty welcome, and thank you for being on our panel today.
Thank you so much.
We are also joined by Lieutenant General Ashwani Kumar Ji, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, ADC, superannuated in October 2019 after nearly 40 years of distinguished service in the Indian Army. Notably, he was the first officer from the Army Air Defense to become a corps commander. He later served as the head of the HR department of the headquarters in the Indian Army, where he reported directly to the Chief of Army Staff. He has served across India, including strife-torn regions like Jammu and Kashmir and Nagaland, where he dealt with counter-insurgency operations. Lieutenant General Ashwani Kumar Ji, great honor to have you on this panel with us today.
Thank you, ma'am.
We are also joined finally by Air Marshal VPS Rana Ji, who served for 37 years in the Indian Air Force and retired as an Air Officer in Charge Administration. He served in many important operational as well as administrative appointments. He commanded an air defense unit during Kargil operations and contributed immensely during the Operation Parakram. He headed the Indian Air Force Administration as the AOA during the most challenging period of COVID and coordinated the overall Indian Air Force efforts in supplies, administration, and medical response during COVID and many other disaster relief operations. His book on air defense of the country, named Invisible Warrior, has been released recently. And for his services of exceptional order, he was awarded Vishishta Seva Medal in 2016 and Param Vishishta Seva Medal in 2022 by the Honorable President of India. And what is really a matter of great honor, that all these decorated veterans of our armed forces are today serving in honorary capacities and leading various institutions of art of living under the guidance of Puja Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar Ji across education, skill development, disaster relief, and humanitarian efforts, and aligning with his vision, making a big difference, not just to our country, but to the world in general. So thank you all of you for finding time today and being with us on the Shri Shri University Talks, the podcast channel of Shri Shri University, which is intended to host conversations which will add value, bring wisdom, and help with the experience of leaders from diverse fields to not only our students, but students from higher education institutions and universities across India. So I want to start with you, Air Commodore Merani Ji. Today, all of us woke up to this news, which we actually were waiting for since 22nd of April. Pahalgam terrorist attack was one of the most serious ones. We were in the 26/11 terrorist attack where the recorded number of lives lost was about 170. And Pahalgam is considered to be one of the biggest after that. The nation was angry. It was on the edge. Emotions were running high for an appropriate response by India. What is your assessment? How do you see India's response in Operation Sindoor?
Yes, this was a response that we were all waiting for. We didn't know exactly how the government would go about it, but going by the signals, we knew that it was going to be a kinetic response. And sure enough, all the three services have got together and have taken part in this operation, where, as per latest reports, I get to know that we did not even have to cross the border. The missiles, the Scalp and the Hammer missiles, which were launched against the targets, were such that they could be launched by the Rafale from our own territory, from our side of the border or the LOC. That's the latest. Supposing they had gone in also, the Rafale is such that it has got counter electronic measures which can jam radars to a large extent and even go across. But Bhavalpur, especially, and Muridke, they were targets which were deep inside. So we've given them a bloody nose, hit the targets. One of the targets, I think Bhavalpur itself, has had casualties to that famed terrorist Azhar Saeed and his family. And there were 4 hits, and the whole building has come down. So, in effect, this is also called political signaling, that we have the political will to hit you. At the same time, going by the briefing given by the Secretary of the Ministry of External Affairs, he has been so clear in stating that we have taken the minimum possible action to neutralize terrorist camps. So, as was spoken on TV and all, a terrorist camp can be built for, say, $50,000 once again. But this is a signal that, look, we can hit you. At Murid K, they were close to a major dam. So if we wanted, we could hit a few missiles on the dam itself and cause irreparable damage. So this is a signal that we have given them, and it has been a very measured response, and the world is watching. They are still on our side. Even from the Chinese side, the response has been fairly moderate. They've just used the word regrettable, that the action is regrettable. It is indeed regrettable. We also don't want to take action like this, just like that. So the whole world, practically without exception, is looking at us as a country which is mature and which knows what to do when. And the leadership is quite capable of doing what it should do. This is what I have to say.
Thank you. That's very insightful. You're saying that this is a very big signaling. It has been a mature response, and it is also demonstrating our capacity and capability to defend ourselves in the best possible way that is needed for our country. Commodore Harsha Ji, I'm going to come to you. How do you see this Operation Sindoor? How would you assess it? And how do you, coming from the Navy, how do you see the naval operations going to impact the current situation in case there is a escalation in the coming weeks or months?
Yes, thank you for having me here. I would say that the current operations have been exclusively led by the Army and the Air Force. And we've seen the kinetic operations this morning and the impact it has had on the other side as well. Now, the response to this is entirely up to the adversary as to what he feels like. I've just been told that the Prime Minister of Pakistan has just said that he has also given his armed forces a very free hand to respond. Now, what that means, we'll have to wait and see. If it does have a kinetic response, then it will escalate into a full-fledged war. And then comes the operations of all three forces together to manipulate and insist to make sure that the adversary is cornered from all sides. We have seen the operations of the Navy in the 1971 war and in the 1999 Kargil operations as well. We had Operation Trident, Python, and Talwar. In 1971, with the limited forces that the Indian Navy had, they could impact heavily by taking in their missile boats close to the harbor of Karachi and then bombard them. And it caused heavy damage. At the same time, they did a blockade of the harbor as well. This stopped the flow of their essentials, and they had to see a very, very low stock out on those issues. Now, going ahead, the Indian Navy strength and the forces' strength right now is far more formidable than what it was a few years back, 25 years back. And we can impact much more heavily in this stage. We can actually have the capability of the three dimensions of submarines, surface navy, and the air. And with the aircraft carriers operating as well as the submarines there, we could put a total blockade, at the same time impact with our weaponry on the ships. Knowing the capabilities of the Pakistan Navy, they are very, very limited as compared to ours. And they would rather keep their assets closer to the harbor to protect the harbor rather than getting into any offensive measures that gives us more advantage. And we also have to see if it becomes a twin-sided war, then we will have to look after the Eastern Front as well. And there is adequate capability with the Indian Navy as well. But I must congratulate today the wonderful operations by the Army and the Air Force for having done the job so beautifully and with wonderful results.
Thank you, Commodore Harsha. And do you see, as a follow-up to this, what you just commented on, that do you see that the situation will evolve in such a way that even the Navy will have to get involved?
Yes, like I said earlier, if the retaliation is kinetic, then it will be a full-blown war. Then Navy has to get into operations full-fledged. But if it is left at this point, there are other means of making sure that Pakistan bleeds slowly and surely.
Right. Thank you. No, this is very insightful. And that brings me to you, General Ashwani Kumar Ji, that these last, since April 22nd, about 3 weeks now, India, the emotions were so high, whether it was digital media, the general television, other media, social media, expressions were high. There was a burning desire in every Indian that there should be some action, there should be some, and today it has happened. So help us understand what goes on. Like people would have thought, agle din hi kuch karo, but it takes time. So what is this time that is taken, and how did that lead us to today, to Operation Sindoor?
Thank you, ma'am. Firstly, thanks a lot for getting us all four of us together. Now the issue is, ma'am, it's something when it happens, there are numerous ways of dealing with it. The first one is a knee-jerk reaction, but that's just a knee-jerk. The fly which you are trying to fly away from your knee will come back and sit on your knee. So at times, you have to plan. You have to also, as we call in armed forces, shaping of battlefield. In this case, the shaping of world opinion was very important. At the same time, you do not want to just do something which is not fully prepared, means the armed forces are not fully prepared, and you don't achieve what you intend to achieve. As Merani sir brought out, this indication, this is the real signaling of the intent of India. It had to be done in a manner that it is taken very seriously. And therefore, despite all the pressure, which we all ourselves through the social media and the media channels are responsible in trying to, persuade or try to force the leadership into something which may not be, फल अभी पका नहीं है उसको आप तोड़ रहे हैं. Knowing our leadership, which is so mature in their thought process, it had to happen this way, that once we are fully ready, we do it. Now that it has happened, between the incident and this early morning when it has happened, a lot of brainstorming and war gaming would have taken place about the possible reaction of the adversary to this, what we have done this morning. And for every reaction, our counter would have been worked out. And therefore, as was brought out by Harsha sir, what happens now will depend more on what does adversary do at this stage. They will keep doing whatever they have to do. They will also try and keep crying that India has done this, India has done that, we were not involved, etc. Well, that will go on. However, the signaling is absolutely clear that no further. You keep doing this, we are going to come back to you much harsher than what you think we can do. And we have got wherewithal, as was brought out by both the illustrious speakers before me. So there is no problem on that. And if the intent was an issue, the intent has been shown by the leadership. So now it is wait and watch what they do. We come back heavier than what we have done so far. And I feel that time delay which was there, the basic question which you asked, ma'am, was very much required for the adequate preparation so that the action which was done this morning, it gets you the result what you are looking for, and our actions were absolutely foolproof. Whether it was, as was brought out, we have not crossed the line of control. However, if it had to be crossed also, that's planning also would have taken place. I mean, you can't leave a job half finished. If the pilots were required to cross, they would have crossed. I'm sure they would have planned that scenario also. So I think it is just the beginning. It is just the beginning of the actions which might happen in days to come.
So I have a follow-up question for you, since you said this is just the beginning. What next after Operation Sindoor?
Well, ma'am, as I said, I mean, as you are aware, I play badminton. Once I've hit a shot, I do not think of my second shot till I know what my opponent has returned with. If I hit a smash and he returns with a defensive drop, I will go back to his rear of the court. If he tries a counter, I will play a defensive shot at the net and then create an opportunity to hit another aggressive shot. So all the scenarios are worked out in my mind. So is the case with Indian armed forces and the leadership, political leadership at the moment. So what happens next will depend upon what our adversary does next. It will be premature to speculate anything what we will do, but we are capable of taking any action depending upon any response which adversary might take at this stage.
Very reassuring to hear such a emphatic remark from you that doesn't matter what is the response, we will be able to face it, to counter it, and to to respond to that response. So that's
Absolutely.
really very emphatically coming from you. And as you rightly said, the pilots did what they had to do with extreme precision. And if they had to do something more, they would have done that also. And with that, Air Marshal Rana Ji, I come to you. So tell us about how the air defense was organized during this time.
See, it is very important. First of all, let me just comment on this. I also reiterate that it is absolutely non-escalatory and the low-key response from India. Not even 1%, much lesser than 1% has been demonstrated. So should the escalation go up the ladder, then I think India holds all the cards, and we are very well prepared that in case it is taken up the escalation ladder, then we have full responses. In the entire threat spectrum, we are much better placed in that threat spectrum if it comes to that. But rightly, like you said, air defense is a very important part which is there affected on everyday basis. It is not that it happens only during war. So it is very important for our youth and everyone to understand that how is it that the air defense is organized. We are not in air defense prepared only for such eventuality. You are prepared for that eventuality on everyday basis. And no, it is you have a huge network of radar, you have a command and control systems, you have a communication network on which 24/7 that watch is on. Like it is like a visual that is done by our soldiers on the border. Similarly, our airspace are on the visual 24/7 through our eyes, which are the radars, AVACS, and likewise. So there are three specifically functions actually for. First, you need to detect that what is coming to you. Like in this case, when we have launched all these operations, I'm sure Pakistan, having known that we are going to attack, would have been on a much better alert system. Their radars would have been churning on 24/7, and yet we were able to strike. That means they would have detected. They would have also, the next function, they would have also identified. Like in this case, it was a very simple thing to identify. If it is coming from India, obviously it's going to be a hostile strike. And third is that you counter the response through the interception, where you use your own weapon system to negate what has been thrown at you from the enemy side. In this case, apparently not a single attack that has been put in all these 9 strikes has been countered. So that also exposes the air defense capability of Pakistan. And that this also shows the offensive capability of ours, that we can do these attacks without being actually challenged by their air defense. And like I said, in this entire spectrum of threat, from mini UAVs to cruise missile to ballistic missile to fighter aircraft, every other this thing we can use, and we have the capability to right from the border where the army can take them on as deep as probably 50-100 kilometers, and Air Force can take them their entire depth without even crossing the border. So this is something, an important lesson to be learned in this operation. And I think this is the signaling and messaging where Merani sir was also saying, that we have demonstrated that we don't need to cross border today to put every threat to neutralize every threat that emanates from Pakistan, be it a terror threat or be it a military threat. Today we have the capability in terms of BrahMos, which in most likely probably could have been used in this case, which is almost can have the range of 200-250 kilometers. We have Spice, we have other things. We have Pinaka, we have Smudge. Even the organic weapons of army can go as deep as 100 kilometers. Then you have the missile systems. Both with army and Air Force, you have the missile systems which can go the entire depth and beyond. While this is what it is, we have demonstrated, but at the same time, we also have to be very prepared for our air defense from our side. That means we should have the capability to detect every kind of threat A similar threat could also be coming from the other side. You would have the warfare today had changed a lot. It is not something what last time we fought, or for that matter, even in Kargil we fought. Today you can without, like I said, you have the swarm drones who can go much in depth, and without any human interference, you could do huge damage. You have Russia-Ukraine warfare is almost 3 years plus. It's already happening. So there are threats of this kind that today you have the weapon system where you don't have to get into the contact battle. You can do non-contact battle and you can prolong it. But if you want a swift action, and then probably all your weapons of all kind will have to synergize and probably come at one go and decimate. So that is a signaling that we have given to Pakistan that as of now, this is the absolute low-key response. This is the minimum response we should have given to them, and we have done. There is no military targets that have been attacked. There are no civilian casualties. On the other side, Pakistan has irresponsibly attacked all our civilian positions along the border, and there have been quite a few civilian casualties on the border. So they have done that response, if they are calling that a response, it is into a civilian populace. But we have been very, very calibrated, very, very, our response has been absolutely minimal. And if it stops at this, like Commodore Harsha said, it's fine. But if it goes beyond, then we have the entire wherewithal to decimate Pakistan, so to say. And that signal, they must take it very, very clear.
Thank you, Marshal Rana Ji. That was very detailed from you, and that actually brings me to the next question to you, Air Commodore Merani Ji. That today, when the press briefing happened, very symbolically, the briefing was done by two very decorated defense services officers who were women. How do you see that? What is your assessment of the reason this was done?
You know, the very name of the operation, Sindoor, I think this is very imaginative. Our previous operations have been like Op Vijay or Brass Tacks or some military kind of name. Calling this Op Sindoor clearly said that we are just avenging something which was completely inhuman, and women were the worst sufferers, seeing their male members, husbands, fathers, maybe die being shot in the head at close range, etc. So this was very symbolic, and it would have been, very heart-touching for others as well. And it also lets the world know that we have women in the forces who are operational and who are completely integrated into the services and completely accepted. The other point was one of the women, Colonel Qureshi, Sophia Qureshi, was a Muslim. So that was another signal given that it's not just a Hindu country. We are a country where we have roughly double the number of Muslims that Pakistan has. And they are all with us and not with you. So I think the MEA briefing was very well thought out and played out in front of the international press at the National Media Center right next to Rashtrapati Bhavan. And I am sure the signal to all the diplomats who must have attended the meeting has gone in. It was very significant.
Thank you. I think so too. It was. It felt very, very empowering, and it was remarkable. The whole briefing was remarkable, and the way the two women officers went into the details of each of these 9 locations and gave It was really an outstanding experience to even just see it, what it must have been to be a part of it. So with that, Commodore Harsha Ji and Air Marshal Rana Ji, I have two questions to both of you. You can take it. Is that all of us as civilians, as citizens of the country, what can we do, or what does this mean for us? How can we be part of this and support our armed forces, or be a part of this whole peace effort for our country, defending our country at an individual level? And Ranaji, I would like you to also comment, because you have been part of the Air Force efforts during COVID, and now you are part of the Himalaya Unnati mission on, from Art of Living side. So what can organizations, large voluntary organizations like Art of Living, do in this situation? So Commodore Harsha Ji, first you, and then Rana Ji, you can.
Okay. Well, this is the time for test for all of us who are not in uniform anymore, and also the civilians around. We have to be very responsible in our acts that we commit every day. Today, this is the age of social media. Everyone is free to put across whatever he wants on that. Yes, this morning itself, there was another mail from the army saying that please restrict filming any of the movements that you're seeing on the our side of the border of the armed forces, and put it on the social media. One should refrain from that. Then they should be aware that we should stop rumor mongering around, so that unwanted impressions do not spread around. And we should be able to be careful that we handle the social media responsibly. I am saying this knowing full well that majority of the people do it very, very responsibly. But I think somewhere the messaging has to go that we have to be careful in what we put up. We have to also understand this. Actually, it was a camouflage today when the entire nation was supposed to be doing mock drill across, and the adversary was probably thinking that they are going and doing an internal drill, and the attack went on them. It was a very nice camouflage, of course. But that apart, these drills have to be taken very seriously. We have to understand how we can be of help to the Civilian Defense Administration, how we can help people to get into their enclosures, how to evacuate the injured, and how to be in the first aid. These are the things that normal citizens should be able to do. And I'm sure Art of Living is, as usual, in all the such calamities, natural calamities, and also in the acts of war, are very much visible on these counts, and we will be very much doing our bit as and when it is required. And lastly, but not the least, have faith in the armed forces. We will deliver when it is required.
Thank you, Commodore Harsha Ji. This was very valuable. So just to repeat, very important what you said, be responsible in what you share on social media. If you are in locations where you see activity of the armed forces, do not photograph it, do not videograph it, do not share it. Be responsible about that, and be responsible about your own awareness. So take any instructions about drills, etc. seriously. Participate in that. And lastly, you commented, of course, that Art of Living as an organization is always at the forefront in any such calamitous situations. That was very useful. Marshal Rana Ji, your comments on this?
Yeah, so I fully endorse what Commodore Harsha has said. There are two ways we can be part of it as in individual capacity. One is passively, like he said, that your behavior, your sharing of the information, you have to be responsible and act responsibly. But there's the other part of it is the active participation. When you come to the active participation, as of now, when we are sitting here, probably half the country is going through the civil defense drill, and in that civil defense, not very many people are aware that civil defense is a very, very organized affair. Generally outside in the civilian domain, we feel that probably it comes only during disasters and likewise. Civil Defense Act of 1968 was immediately after 60, we went through 65 war. Then it was felt that no, the normal citizens could be of so much use to minimize the impact of the war. And that is how the Civil Defense Act came into being. And then we practiced it in 1971. So by the time 1971 came, we were fully prepared. We knew what to do, how to go about it, how the air raid warnings would be sounded, how these civil defense centers would be established, how they will get integrated with the air defense command and control centers, how the warnings will be passed to them. They in turn will pass to the civilian defense, to the civilian populace. In fact, in World War II, civil defense was as important as possibly the normal military operations were, because it was a prolonged war, and all these civil defense volunteers and civil defense organizations did a commendable job to reduce that impact of that war, which was almost 7, 8, 9 years just carried on. And so is like the present wars also where it's happening. So I'm sure even in Russia, Ukraine, and Israel, civil defense is playing a big role in organizing everything. So in our case also, there are civil defense registered volunteers, which are close to more than 5 lakhs. And then there are unorganized volunteers, like I will not say unorganized, but not linked to the civil defense volunteers like us. We have a huge pool of volunteers, and we could be of assistance to of any kind. So when civil defense volunteers are being trained, and whether it is firefighting drill, or it is evacuation, or it is organizing logistics, or in the hospitals, taking people to hospitals, all this we can be of real good help. We've already done that. In the last 2 years of you talked about Himalaya Unnati Mission. We saw that what happened in Sikkim, and we saw what happened in Himachal in last two. We've been always at it, but while in Himalaya Unnati Mission, these two, I am sure, Merani sir was there when we coordinated all this effort, and there was so much that we did in coordination with the civil defense. I mean, not civil defense, the local authorities. But this civil defense is actually much better organized now through the arms like NDRF, the SDRF, district disaster authorities. The DMs and all have to play a major part. Only thing that is little different during civil defense of wartime is that here you will get to hear the warning sirens of the attack, and thereafter you are to quickly either disperse, take safety positions, and be ready now then to do whatever actions that are required to minimize the losses. But otherwise, in say in earthquake, or in what happened in Himalayan regions, it's been happening continuously. We've been at it. So there is a recovery, there is a rescue, there is a evacuations. All that is also part of the civil defense. So we have a great potential as an art of living organization. We demonstrated that during Sikkim and Himachal in recent times, like I said. So similarly, in these times, we could actually be of great help to assist the district authorities and the local authorities. And like you said, COVID, I mean, I was at the helm, so I know how difficult it was. But we came really good, and we came good mainly because of the response of the people. It was not only the armed forces response; it was a collective response. There was a very responsible behavior of people, and there were a lot of assistance that was extended by the civil populace as well. So we synergistically overcame that obstacle, and I'm sure should there be any thing coming now, our people would really come out good.
Yes, Marshal Rana, really rightly said by you. In fact, our Shishu University campus has the campus of NDRF as well as CISF very close by. And just yesterday, actually, we had acclimatization and sort of awareness conversations and sessions with NDRF to understand how we could partner, given that our campuses are so co-located, and how we could be part of this, and in turn, their guidance to us in terms of how we should be proactively prepared. So you're absolutely right. And I think going ahead, depending upon the situation, we will keep getting guidance from the government on how non-voluntary organizations or community organizations can play a role in a structured way. General Ashwani Kumar, my question to you is, with what has happened with Operation Sindoor, well, how do you see this geopolitically evolving for India? How do you see likely reactions? Some we have already seen, but how do you see the geopolitical equation evolving or changing?
See, ma'am, as I mentioned earlier also, while referring to the question of why we did not react immediately or near immediately, uh, this kind of spade work or homework would have been done already before we went in for Operation Sindhu. Now, no country, whichever be the country or whichever side that country might be, would actually like this kind of civilians or innocents being killed. So to that extent, everyone understands and appreciates India's right to retaliate the way we have done. And they all will also appreciate that we have been quite measured in our response, as has been brought out by the other panelists here. But having said that, no country will also be interested or will be keen or they will be averse to the present scenario getting escalated to a full-scale war between India and Pakistan. So to that extent, through the track two or otherwise, they will also keep on cautioning Indian leadership that please be a little patient, try and find some other ways. They have no ground to tell India not to react. That's why India's next step will depend upon what does other side do. But as far as world opinion is concerned, I don't see a problem as far as India is concerned, that anyone will be against India doing anything. And of course, on India's side, on the leadership maturity, I have no doubt that whatever we do will have to be accepted by the world opinion or the other countries, whether they like it or not. We have been hit. We are well within our right to hit back. Nobody likes to kill. Soldier doesn't like to kill till it is more wrong not to kill. If it comes to that, I'm sure Indian armed forces are well geared up for that.
Thank you. Thank you, General Ashwani Kumar. This, again, a very emphatic remark from you there. And I would like to have all panelists on the grid. And this has been a very, very insightful conversation to get a deeper understanding of the why of the what or the how of the what. I want to ask all of you, and you can take the questions in whichever order you like. Two general questions, considering that this is a conversation that our students and the young population of India will watch. I have two questions for your advice and comments. Firstly, you all have been in very, very intense, situations with the army on the front, etc. So how do the forces maintain morale, preparedness in this kind of high alert, intense situations? And what can we as civilians or the youth of India, what can we learn? What can they learn from it? That's my first question. And the second question connected to that is, therefore, what is your message to our youth regarding service, patriotism, a sense of vigilance, a sense of pride about our country? So I leave it open to your comments.
If my seniors permit, I think I'll respond to that first. Ma'am, you see, we all take it for granted that we in uniform are the people who are the only Deshbhakt in our country. Let me give a little clarity to this concept. A Safai wala who is cleaning our streets every day is an equal Deshbhakt. Because if he does not do that, gandgi badegi and people will start falling sick. A traffic police constable who is at the red light traffic signal, he's trying to control the traffic so that accident does not take place. He's a patriot in his own right. So to that extent, all of us are doing that duty as it is. The only difference is the Desh Bhakti of a uniformed man involves a question of life and death, which is slightly different. And that's why we are donning the uniform. As far as youth are concerned, whether they are wearing the uniform or not, they must be conscious of the fact that whatever they do is being done for their great country. It is not just that the people who are fighting at the border, the task is not there. There is a rear echelon. If I am fighting at the border, ma'am, I'll just ask a question, and my wife is somewhere in Dehradun not keeping too well. Unless I am assured in my mind that the people around my house are good enough to take care of my wife's sickness or any other issue, or my children, any other issue they are facing, then only I'll be able to give my 100% at the border. I may have the best of the weapon. I might have the best of the training. I might have the best of the leadership. But I will be distracted unless I am conscious of this fact that not to worry, everything is being taken care of. This is what we can do as youth, as a civilian. And, I always say that leadership is not only among the people who are in the organization. It is the locals who are there. Among them, they find a leader who organizes people, like Air Marshal Rana brought out this civil defense organization. It's a time-tested organization, and it is based on honorary leadership also. That's how it happens. And the morality and ethics is something which has to be followed by everyone. Of course, in uniform, we need to have a separate code of conduct. I mean, unless I have confidence in my leader, war is not a tea party, ma'am. When one goes to battle with the possibility of not returning alive looming large, he will do it under a leadership who he can trust. A man with suspect moral conviction will never be able to inspire his men to risk their lives. So as a civilian who are there at the rear when my families are staying there, or wherever the infrastructure assets are there of the country, if they are taken care of by these people, at least the people in uniform will be that much more assured to be doing what they are doing at the border.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that insight. Please, others.
Yeah, I want to share something. I was in Israel for on duty. We were selecting a missile, and we were treated to a dinner at a Bedouin camp. The friendly Arabs. And while we were there, from the Air Defense Academy next door, a couple of buses came with youngsters. They must have been in their teens, some of them not even 18. And they came for an outing to have dinner. They were in uniform, boys and girls in equal numbers, and all of them had a automatic weapon strapped across their back. And look at the discipline. Throughout the dinner, they never took off that weapon or kept it aside. They ate their dinner, acted like youngsters, and left. So this is what is discipline. And we don't have conscription in our country, but kind of discipline that when you are doing a job, and especially a military job, you are doing it 100%. And Agniveer is there. We have the territorial army. There are so many young people who ask me, how can I join the army now? I'm past the age. I tell them, you can join the territorial army. Give 2 months, 3 months of your time in a year to the army. Right up to the age of 40, they can join. And Agniveer is an excellent opportunity of 4 years for youth to join and become disciplined citizens. They learn skills, especially General Ashwani will agree with me that in some of the arms and services of the army, when they join signals or engineers or EME, they have tremendous potential to do well outside. At the same time, they become disciplined. So youth, even in our university, should be told that besides what General Ashwani already clarified, how they are doing national service no matter what they are doing. But if they are keen on donning a uniform, they can even do that and come out very well, very good.
Wow. Territorial Army, Agniveers, and discipline. I'm taking that out of what you said. Yes, Commodore Harsha Ji, Air Marshal.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to just say that motivation and morale are not something that is reserved for a particular event in the armed forces. It's an event, it's a status that is maintained throughout one's career. And that is our basic job is to keep our men fully motivated to go the harm's way with no guarantee of coming back. So motivation is something that we work on. Now, how do you, and when does when a Jawan or a sailor or an airman feels so, trusts his commanding officer so much, is that when he understands that his requirement is taken care back home. So we have a divisional system where we get into the into the details of the sailors or the airmen's families, understand who they are, and also compassionate enough to give what they need, and then the time is difficult for them. And this builds a confidence for them to trust the commanding officer or the unit so deeply that he's willing to go to whatever extent that is possible. So that is how the morale of the armed forces is always very high. There is never a dip in that. Now, coming to the issue of the students and the youth of the country. In this age of social media, there is so much of information that is flowing through, and they are, in a way, understanding what armed forces is really all about. During our time, there used to be even a letter would take 60 days to reach some places. And here we are going to get immediately, what is happening, and you're getting televised war starts being shown. So they understand the difficulties of the armed forces and the various vigors that they have to go through. Now, to say that we are the only people who are doing the best for the country is not correct. There are other people of various intelligentsia who are also involved in bringing building up the country to the level it is required. Each one is very essential. But the common string that runs through all of us to be useful about it is to make sure that you are disciplined and make sure that you are committed to the growth of the country. And that is the only way to take it forward. Thank you.
Discipline and commitment. Very powerful advice from you there. Air Marshal Rana Ji?
I think this is the question which Gurudev can explain the best. And he does it on everyday basis, to people. As far as the youth is concerned, there's no other person who's better connected with youth than Gurudev. And I take it from his saying that until and unless every individual takes the work, and I think all of our senior colleagues talked about that every single individual has to take his job as his dharma. So once he takes that as a dharma, then he's straight away doing something which is serving the country. And the discipline automatically would get ingrained. The moment you approach your job with that pride and say that this is my dharma and this is what I need to do with all my sincerity, with all my responsibility, I think if we can ingrain somehow that in every youth of ours, I think then we don't need to do anything else to discipline our youth. But there's one thing very typical of armed forces, what actually makes it better, I think, are the difficult times and the tough situations. These are the two things which actually create better morality. They also have a better thing for, to maintain your morale under such situations. So I think it is part of our training and part of our building up. But again, we don't have something that we only can do it. It can be done in every other institution outside. But certainly the kind of situations that we go through, the kind of toughening that we go through, the kind of difficult times we go through, then you are better prepared, and your morality and morale both are heightened. And whenever there is a comfort, the comfort will distort morale, and comfort will distort the morality. And that is unfortunately what is happening with today's youth. We are looking more and more for comfort and less for sorting out our difficult situations and difficult times. That tolerance is reduced to a very large extent, and I think we need to work on that part. That until and unless you learn to sail through difficult times smoothly, then you cannot self-discipline yourself, and neither you can be of real value to your country. You have to put your country's interest first. And that would only come when you are ready to lose on your comfort, and you are ready to take on difficult situations, tough situations for the cause of your country. So I think these things, like Merani sir talked about Agniveer, initially it was so difficult for us to talk about this concept to people. But the fact was that Agniveer actually was meant to do this, that you have large number of these people who are exposed to these value system, and then they get merged into the civilian society, and then carry these value systems with you, and then probably improve the society, so to say. So that was the actual approach for the Agniveer system, which initially people did not really understand that this is what it is, and there were a lot of this thing. But the fact was that Agniveer was intended with this approach, that more and more of these value systems that the armed forces has must get passed over to the rest of the society.
Wonderful, Rana ji. You are emphasizing on not being stuck to the comfort zone, which I think today, because of technology and the ease of living life, has become a sort of a derived benefit in that sense. We get everything in 10 minutes, and if we don't get it, that becomes a reason for our impatience or displeasure. This has been such a educating and educative and such an insightful conversation. I want to just ask one last round and request a one-word answer from each of you. If you had to sum up the spirit of Operation Sindoor in one word, what would it be for you?
I'll say bravo, well done.
Bravo, well done. Yes.
Befitting.
Sorry?
Befitting. Befitting risk.
Bravo, well done, befitting.
The measured response.
Measured response. Okay.
Don't mess with us.
Don't mess with us. Okay, we'll let you have 4 words for one. So, Air Commodore R.N. Merani Ji, Commodore Harsha Ji, Lieutenant General Ashwani Kumar Ji, and Air Marshal VPS Rana Ji. Salute to you for your service to the nation. Salute to you for your sacrifice that you have made during your lifetime to the nation. And thank you very much for giving your time today for this very important and insightful conversation, discussion, sharing your life experience, wisdom, which will, I think, become a very important and educative conversation for our students, our Shishu University team, and everybody watching this podcast to take away from. So deep gratitude to all of you, and thank you very much for your time and for your sharing.
Thank you very much for having us.
Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Jai Hind.
Jai.